In that place between wakefulness and dreams, I found myself in the room. There were no distinguishing features except for the one wall covered with small index card files. They were like the ones in libraries that list title by author or subject in alphabetical order. But these files, which stretched from floor to ceiling, seemed to go endlessly in either direction and had very different headings. As I drew near the wall of all of these files, the first to catch my attention was the one that read, "Guys I Have Liked." I opened it and began flipping through the cards. I quickly shut it, shocked to realize that I recognized every name written on each card. Somehow, without being told, I knew exactly where I was. This lifeless room, with its small files that seemed infinite, was a crude catalog system about my life. Here were written many actions of my every moment, big and small, in a boundless detail that not even my memory could match. A sense of wonder and curiosity, coupled with horror and disgust, stirred within me as I began randomly opening files and exploring their detailed content. Some brought joy and sweet memories, others a sense of shame and regret, so intense that I found myself looking over my shoulder to see if anyone was watching. A file named Friends was next to one marked Friends I Have Betrayed. The titles ranged from the mundane to the outright bizarre. Some titles read Places I Have Visited, Support I Have Given, Jokes I Have Laughed at, and even Jobs I Have had. As I read through the cards, it seemed almost ironic in how exact they were. I came across titles I couldn't laugh at. Times I have condemned my sister. Lies I have told. Things I have done in my anger. And even things I have muttered under my breath at my parents. I never ceased to be surprised by the detailed contents. Often there were many more cards in each file than I had expected. Sometimes fewer than I had hoped. I was overwhelmed by the sheer volume of the life I had lived. Could it be possible that I had time in my 27 years to write each of these thousands or even millions of cards? But each card confirmed this truth. Each one was written in my own handwriting, each card signed with my own signature. When I pulled out the file marked Songs I Have Listened to, I realized the files grew to contain their contents. The cards were packed tightly, and yet after 8 to 10 feet, I hadn't found the end of the file. I shut it. Shamed not so much by the quality of the music, but more by the vast amount of time I knew that file represented. When I came to a file marked Lustful Thoughts, I felt a chill run through my entire body. I pulled the file out only by an inch, not willing to witness its length and size, and then drew out a card. I shuddered at its detailed content. Then another file that caught my attention, the time consumed on my phone. All the hundreds, possibly thousands of hours of texting, playing games, on Facebook and YouTube, completely engulfed and confined to my own world. I felt sick to think that such moments had been recorded. An almost animal rage broke out in me. One thought dominated my mind. No one must ever see these cards. No one must ever see this room. I have to destroy it all. In a deranged, insane frenzy, I yanked a file drawer out. Its size didn't matter now. I had to empty it and burn the cards. But as I pulled the drawer at one end and began pounding it on the floor, nothing came out. I became desperate and pulled out a card, only to find it as strong as steel when I tried to tear it. Defeated and utterly helpless, I returned the file drawer into its slot. Leaning my forehead against the wall, I let out a long, self-pitying, and fearful sigh. And then I saw it. The title read, People I Have Shared the Gospel With. The handle was brighter than those around it, newer, almost unused. I pulled on its handle and a very small drawer fell into my hands. I could count the cards it contained on one hand. And then the tears came. I began to weep. Sobs so deep that the hurt started in my stomach and shook throughout my entire being. I fell on my knees, trembling, and I sobbed. I cried out of shame from the overwhelming thought of all of this. The rows of the shelves swirled in my tear-filled eyes. No one must ever, ever know of this room. I must lock it up and hide the key. But then, As I shoved away the tears, I saw him. No, please, not him. Not here. Anyone but Jesus. I watched helplessly as he began to open the files and read the cards. I couldn't bear to watch his response. And in the moments, I found myself able to look at his face. I saw a sorrow deeper than my own. He seemed to automatically go to the worst drawers. Why did he have to read every one? Finally, he turned and looked at me from across the room. He looked at me with sorrow in his eyes. I dropped my head, placed my face in my hands, and began to sob. He walked over and placed his arms around me. He could have said so many things, but he didn't say a word. He just wept with me. In complete silence, he walked back to the wall of all of the files. Starting at one end of the room, he took out a file and one by one began to sign his name over mine on each and every card. No, I shouted, no, rushing to him. All I could find to say was, no, please, please, no. I pulled the card from him. His name shouldn't be on these cards. But there it was, written in red, so rich, so dark, and so alive. The name of Jesus covered mine. It was written with his blood. He gently took the card back. He smiled a merciful smile and began to sign every single card. I don't think I'll ever understand how he did it so quickly. But the next instant, it seemed I heard him close the last file and walk back to my side. He placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "It is finished." I stood up and he led me out of the room. There was no lock on its door. There were still cards to be written.